Today I'm going to be talking about why we should be keeping a failure journal. So what is a failure journal? I can definitely illuminate what it isn't. It's not a place where you go to wallow or catastrophize about the events that have happened. It's actually a process, really. It's where you write down all the situations that you've faced that have irked you. I love that word irk. Like, I am fully irked. You have irked me. Go irk yourself. There's situations where you realize you've made an epic mistake. All of those moments where you've been disappointed. When you have that argument with a friend or with somebody that you kind of expected to behave differently. Maybe when something happens at work where you start thinking about that fire dog meme. And what you do is you write down through a specific series of steps with the ultimate goal of you're digging for gold. Because you really don't want to let a good suffering go to waste, and here's why. The glorious why, front-on attack. I find it helpful to know why I'm doing something, so then I can understand the process and why I'm suffering again by writing this stuff down. It gives you nuggets of gold. By creating a record of your setbacks and extracting the valuable lessons, you're ultimately aiming to gain insights and valuable wisdom, or just whiz. Life gives you whiz, you make wisdom. Can't believe I've just said whiz and nuggets in the same concept. Freud, where are you? It brings clarity. You get to identify with precision the exact emotions that are running through you. You are not only understanding the physical experience, but also the thoughts that are generating these emotions. But why write? I mean, it does take a lot of effort to get paper, use a pen. Oh, it's so old school, but why write over typing? This is what I've learned so far about the wonders of journaling. Writing allows you to think things through. Writing helps you slow down your thinking because it takes time to write. You become more articulate when you write. Sometimes it can take minutes to find the exact feeling that you're trying to describe and words that encapsulate the nuance of what you're feeling. It's very easy to default into the happy, sad, angry kind of broad brush emotions. Words like revengeful hit different than anger. Feeling abandoned and vulnerable feels different than saying, I feel sad. It keeps you learning, keeps you humble, and you gather a lot of data. Data is feedback, and you start seeing your failure as feedback. By only walking around and reacting to things and being severely disappointed that people and events and experiences are not living up to the expectations you have, you're just a walking mess when you're reacting. And by writing, you're learning about yourself, and you start questioning whether you're holding on to beliefs that served you in the past but aren't really a fit for you anymore. You realize that you don't know it all. In fact, the more you learn, the more dumb you kind of feel in a way. I'm feeling dumber every year in so many ways, but also so much better every year. It's actually a really great space to be in because you realize you're actually an infant in this universe. It gives you laughs. What you thought was so tragic at the time, it was disastrous, it was like the end of the world. When you look back on it, you realize that was no biggie. By writing and reflecting, you also often look back and just have a bit of a laugh about our human behavior. We can become so dramatic about events that happen and things that people say. Perspective kicks in with time, and you gain confidence because you realize you've overcome many failures before and you've documented them. So you know that you are going to have the ability to overcome your failures again. It builds confidence when you can see your track history of becoming better each time. By writing down each hitting the wall moment, you start to mindfully desensitize yourself to these failures. That situation is not such a big of a monster as your mind had created. And in fact, you become better at learning to nip it in the bud before it becomes a big catastrophe in your mind. It is a really healthy outlet for your future self. Often by writing down what just happened, it mentally not only gives you some relief and outlet for expressing what just happened, it also cleverly reminds you that by writing in time, you're going to come back to this and you're going to have a different perception of the events that happened. Something inside of you will have shifted in future. Basically, you're writing to the future version of yourself. So let's get practical. How do we actually go about doing the thing? I've got my trusty notepad here and a pen, and I'm going to give an example of a situation that occurred in my life that I did work through, and I'm just going to recreate it here for the purposes of this video. There are no hard and fast rules about how you express and how you write. This is the whole point of a journal, is if you need to draw pictures to express, if you need to do like some kind of a wheel diagram or a spider flow document, or you're a structured person, you need bullet points, you just create it how your mind works. You can even make it a Dear Diary style. Whatever method helps you get it out of your system in a healthy way, just go nuts. Step number 1 is where you throw everything on the page, everything you're feeling. What happened? Why did it happen? Why did you think it happened? What feelings were running through you? Sometimes the feelings still run through you. I've literally made an entry once in my failure journal where I wrote within a minute of it occurring. I went straight to my diary. I thought, don't respond, don't react, don't go crazy, just go to your diary and write down like how you're feeling, because it was raw and fresh, and I knew that anything that came out my mouth would not have been my better self speaking. It would have been something I would have regretted. So I journaled it as a way of getting it out of my system. Sometimes when you're journaling, you're scribbling so mad you can't even read your own writing because you're still experiencing it. And just remember, when you're in step 1, it can be quite exposing and vulnerable and very raw, and being kind to yourself and reminding yourself that failure isn't final. Failure doesn't make you an epic fail at life. So, going to do one together, and I'll show you the page or record my writing. I'm going to write about something that ticked me off. This is very classic, what happens with the dynamics in families or people that you live with, flatmates, friends, and when the household becomes quite tight and you realize communication is even more important. A situation happened where I ensured that the medical kit was fully stocked with fresh items, and a person in the household at the time used up all of the Strepsils, which are like throat lozenges when you feel unwell or you have a sore throat. By the time I felt a sore throat coming on and my throat was ticklish and I wanted a cough lolly, so Australian, there was none left. And I thought, wow, I rarely get sick. And when I went to get one, they were gone. So I asked, and as kindly as I could, why they weren't restocked. Why would somebody take the last and not put it on a shopping list, not say something, not let you know, put a sticky note, I owe you, something so that it can just be replenished? And the response was, whatever. There's also cultural differences too. The person at the time was American, and I learned over time that the word whatever is used almost quite frequently in the United States. Well, please correct me if I'm wrong with my understanding for the United States folk who are watching, because it's such an interesting phrase. It's not really used in Australia, although the younger generation are picking up a lot of the American phrases, and whatever is starting to become quite popular here as well. So that phrase whatever, certainly to me and how I felt at the time, was it's dismissive, it's rude, it discounts somebody else's experience or feeling. It's akin, in my mind, at the time, of telling somebody, shush up, I'm done with this conversation, and the boom gate goes down. And one of the things you'll notice when you're writing your emotions and how you're feeling, how this thing is affecting you, this event, this person, what somebody said, what somebody did or didn't do, you might be struggling to find the right language to describe how you're feeling. And so there's an emotional wheel which you can use. There are plenty of images on the internet with this, but I'll put one up to demonstrate the way in which you can help yourself find the right language to describe how you're feeling. And it gets very specific, and you'll notice there are a lot of differences and range. So anger, for example, can go down many different types of anger. Do you feel let down, humiliated, mad, aggressive, frustrated, critical? And that gets broken down even further into emotions. So you'll find there are words that go, oh, that's more like how I feel. Yes, that's exactly it. So it helps you express on the page what you're experiencing. The step 2 is, you can do this straight off the bat if you're in the right frame of mind. You write down something that you've learned from the experience. It could be something about yourself. Like for me, one of the things I learned was, well, I'm sensitive to the way people speak. It's not just about the words they use, it's a tone of voice in which they use it. So that was a self-reflection. It can also be, wow, this person has no idea or has no social awareness about the impact of their language. You can start observing things a little more objectively, and sometimes so leave it for 30 days if you can't do it there and then. If you don't have the capacity or you're still feeling so much of the emotion, it's not the right point to do step 2. So leave it, come back in 30 days and find all of those. You're digging for the lessons. You're digging for the insights. Oh, I realized this about myself, or I realized something about that event. And then step 3 is the 3-month version of that. Now what you're going to do, 3 months after the event or the failure has occurred, you're going to go back to your journal and write down at least one good thing that came out of having had that experience. So this is a next layer. This is actually finding, how has this event or situation, how has it served me? How has it been a good thing? 3 months is a good length of time to have enough space and emotional distance from a situation. Depends on how big, of course. There are really massive. You've got to use your judgment and you've got to understand yourself and how much time you need. But a lot of the things that we're going to write in our journal are going to be the no biggie stuff. You're going to look back and go, oh my goodness, it wasn't really that much of a big deal. Or maybe, oh, there's a pattern there. I keep repeating the same things the same way. I keep reacting the same way. Gosh, I'm glad that happened because I'm becoming better at catching myself. I was watching an interview with a guest speaker, Arthur Brooks. I'll leave a link down below if you want to watch the full version of it. I believe it was Rich Roll who was interviewing him. And Arthur focuses on how we can teach and train our brains to be happy, or basically become happy humans. And he went into the details about the strategies and how we can cope and find tools that will help when we face the letdowns and the setbacks. So with step 3, what we're doing is we're allowing enough space, just enough space to pass so that we're not so caught up in all the emotions, that we're able to bring in and train our mind to see how something has taught us a lesson. What have we learned? It happens every time. Like I always think, oh yeah, I'm gonna find that one thing where I can't find anything and then say, ha, see, the tool doesn't work. It's almost like I'm trying to find the fail, but I literally, to this day, it hasn't failed. I've always found things and insights from going back and re-looking at events and then finding how it has helped, or the lessons, or something I've learned about myself or the situation or the world around me. Effectively, you're using these events, these failures, as an excuse to level up. You're aiming to transform. You're like playing the game of being an alchemist. You're transmuting something that was awful into something that is going to be beneficial. Because it seems like the only other choice is either go down such a destructive pathway in your brain and never learn and never move on and never help yourself adjust. And I don't think that's I certainly can't do that. I need to find a way of using all of my experiences in a creative way, in a healing way, and bringing out and making the best of a situation. There is something very powerful about using all of your experiences and helping other people. It's beyond yourself. It's not wallowing in your situation. You're finding ways that it can help. And even if it helps you a little bit, it might help someone a huge amount. And that's the biggest gold ever. So the whole point of keeping a failure journal is not just to acknowledge, yes, I messed up, or this situation was awful, or I had this whole series of memorable emotions. You're saying, this is exactly what happened, and these are the things I've learned from it. It's so wonderful to see other people overcoming their struggles. And that's the lovely part about storytelling, is we tend to watch movies and films and play games. We enjoy watching humans overcoming their struggles and overcoming obstacles, and maybe you overcoming your problems and your experiences and your struggles. Give somebody else hope that they can also overcome theirs. It's always so much easier looking back on something than when you're wandering through it like walking forest case. And writing about my epic failures in life has certainly helped me synthesize and understand and become better at overcoming my struggles in a shorter time frame. Plus, I also find I get a lot of good laughs at it when I look back and read my diary.